It sounds awful right now, I'm sure. Technical difficulties, so if this is your first time watching one of the live streams, it's usually better than this. My microphone broke. This $10 microphone that I've been using for everything, for my short videos, for my live streams, it doesn't work anymore. As you can hear, that's not working. I've had to actually plug in another webcam to at least get the audio off of that. So let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me at all. We're just going to roll with it because, I mean, we live for this, just talking about Star Wars, mic issues or not. We're just going to get into it. So we've got Father Time in here tonight, coming in just a little bit. He'll be here in a minute. But we are going to talk about, are they creating a new extended universe? And I put up a poll asking people whether they would want Disney to retcon the sequels, to add the canon, or recanonize the EU back into actual Star Wars canon, or if they should create a new extended universe, a new EU. And overwhelmingly, people said that they wanted to retcon the sequels. Now, I don't think that that is the right course of action, but that's what most people said, so we're going to talk about if that's what they should do, what the implications of that would be, and also, I mean, what is this show doing for us? What is Ahsoka giving us? What is it going to lead to in the future of Star Wars? So thank you for tuning in. Again, sorry for the microphone issues. I'm sure I sound terrible, but we're going to roll with it right here on Coffee on Korriban. Say hello to some of the people in the chat. Scrolling up. We've got House of the Jedi. Here's a sip for you. Ryan B. Here's a sip for you. He says we're going to see a Starforge in the Ahsoka series. It makes sense. Also Stargates. Starforge would be amazing. That's a pretty powerful weapon. If any of you guys have played KOTOR, then you'll know what we're talking about. Dad Boy Steve, here's a sip for you. Fandomology says to everyone watching, go to Dollywood and ride Big Bear Mountain. Tell them Fandomology and Coffee on Korriban sent you. Yes, indeed. Dollywood is my home park, and Fandomology was in town visiting us. He just got off Big Bear Mountain a couple hours ago, and it is great. It is a fantastic roller coaster. So good job, Dollywood. Good job, Vekoma, on that roller coaster. Star Wars Theology says, I will catch the stream on replay after wake up early for work. Here's a sip for you. Thanks for stopping by anyway. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want. You don't have to. Ryan says, I'd like your opinion on the likelihood of my latest theory. The dead people in the catacombs are the Zepho. I've heard a lot of people mention that, and I don't exactly know what the Zepho are. Somehow related to Abeloth. I'm not too well versed in all of that, so yeah, writing is on the wall. I've seen some of the translations of the runes on the pillars and stuff, but again, I don't know a whole lot about those theories. Charlie says, cool. Good to see you in the chat. Here's a sip for you. Tom Jensen. Has Filoni ever dipped into the games before? I don't know. That's a good question. And what role might he have played in something like Jedi Fallen Order or the new Survivor game? I don't know. That is a good question. Father Time, you'll be here in a little bit. Here's a sip for you. Who wants to lick the batter? I will play that video in a second once he gets here. We got Sus T. Here's a sip for you. Dat Boy Steve says we can hear well enough. Here's a sip of Mountain Dew. Well, thank you. Here's a sip for you. Yeah, microphone. This microphone that I always use broke. Just stopped working the other day. Yesterday, in fact. So I'm using a webcam just to pick up the audio because I had nothing else for you guys to hear me through. So we're just going to keep rolling with it. John, here's a sip for you. Justin Scott, here's a sip for you. Dollar Tree microphone. Yeah, it's just a cheap webcam. Just to capture the audio, at least. Stay on target, here's a sip for you. Drizzle Factory, haven't seen your name before. If this is your first time, sorry again for the poor audio tonight, but here's a sip for you. We've got Kat, Tony, here's a sip for you. And Kinsei Sensei, here's a sip for you. Alright, we are caught up. So let's bring in, let me lower that audio just a little bit for the music. And we will bring in the man himself. Where is that video that you guys love so much? Here it is.
Who wants to lick the batter? Here's a sip for you.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
There it is.
You've got the brick wall background again. From Ferrix.
That's right.
Marva's back there somewhere.
Behind me.
Marva's back there somewhere. All right, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Cool.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on this last episode overall?
I thought it was a little cheesy. Let me finish. Okay.
Okay.
So I thought it was a little cheesy. Some of the acting I don't like. I was a little underwhelmed because I don't know Thrawn, so I was a little underwhelmed at who he was, what he was all about, and why he's so scary. It just seemed like a filler episode. And then after I watched it, I watched your video on it, and it changed my mind. And I haven't even gone back to rewatch it yet. Now, where you pointed out the dead army and blah blah blah. I know I got to go back and rewatch it, but it is very intriguing, and I don't rate it as low as I did, based on strictly on things that I wasn't aware of and I didn't see through your video.
And that's part of the reason why I wanted to have you on tonight, was to talk about your perspective, because for anyone that doesn't know Father Time, first off, is my dad, hence the father. But beyond that, he likes Star Wars. He enjoys it. He's watched the movies, and like The Mandalorian, Obi-Wan, Kenobi, Book of Boba Fett, like the recent stuff.
And
but as far as
OG,
the deeper lore,
OG from back in the movie theater.
That is true as well. But you're not super well versed in the extended universe,
correct?
Or the games, the comics, the books, and stuff.
Not all of it.
The animated shows
not
like Clone Wars and Rebels, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to bring you on to get your perspective of how is this episode landing with a more casual Star Wars fan as opposed to those of us that know more of that backstory. So,
that's right.
And I had a very similar experience to you, where I liked the episode, but once I started really digging into it and theorizing, talking with other people in Discord, by the way, join the Discord, link is in the description, if you guys want to continue this discussion in there. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is really important. There's a lot of hidden details in there, and again, it makes it seem like this show was made by people that are passionate about their art and about honoring the Star Wars legacy, which is the most important thing. I haven't felt that as much from the other shows. So that's kind of where we're coming from on that.
I don't
Drizzle
think
Factory says first time, awesome. Well, I'm glad to have...
Yeah, Drizzle Factory, welcome. I'll keep talking while he's tuned out there. So there you go, you're back.
It's that the upload speed that we were talking about before.
Yeah. So
right,
I think for me, this episode was good, but it's still not as good as number 5. Number 5, I think still has more of an impact on this series or the sequel.
Sure, I would agree as well. I mean, we got Anakin, the whole Clone Wars, which was just amazing, and people have been debating on whether that was necessary for the story or not. It doesn't matter. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
So there's that. But what we're going to get into tonight, as I said at the top of the show, is Ahsoka hinting at creating a new extended universe. And let me pull up my my banners. We're going to get into that in just a second. But this show is giving us some really cool stuff. So not just with the whole Anakin and is he the father of Mortis and where is Ahsoka? Is this a world between worlds? Not just that, but in terms of what this could mean for the future going forward, this show's giving us some really cool stuff. What is some stuff that's popped out to you so far that this show has given us that's maybe different from the ones we've gotten in the past?
Well, I don't know about different, but what I was expecting, how about that? From what I was expecting this to be, definitely feels more like Andor. I think we're talking to Justin Scott's got a comment in there about Andor, but definitely feels more Andor-ish, or taking itself a little bit more seriously than The Mandalorian, which is just a fun ride.
Right.
Until you get Lizzo in there. But other than that, it's a fun ride.
Right, and that's kind of... I made a video a long time ago about Andor is the fine art gallery.
Yeah.
It'll age well. It's the fine art gallery. It's the... Not to say that it's only for mature audiences, but it takes itself seriously, and it takes a little bit of an investment to enjoy it because you have to be looking for the artwork there. Versus Mandalorian is something you put at the end of the day to relax.
Yeah,
you
and
put
to
it on
some
the
extent,
TV and you just sit back.
To some extent, I was expecting episode 6 to be a filler episode because there was so much happening in episode 5. But based on what you just said, if I take it more seriously, I should have seen more. And so now that's...
Yeah, and then again, that's to the casual fan, you can't say like, oh, well, you should have done your homework. You should have watched all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars and 4 seasons.
It would have been
of Rebels.
helpful, but I didn't.
Sure. So, and Justin Scott brings up a really good point. Andor is more grounded, but Ahsoka feels more like Star Wars. That was something that Andor, looking back on it, did not have as much. That Star Wars magic, the fantasy element to it. And Ahsoka has that, but it also has the seriousness of Andor. And even before we started this Ahsoka series, I kept saying that this show is going to be different. It's going to give us a different flavor, a different insight into this galaxy. And I think it's really doing that so far. Mm-hmm. Andor is Star Wars for people who don't have a Jedi friend. Yes. Yeah, for the average person living out in the galaxy, which again, for me, I love the world building and the detail. That's why I come to these shows and I watch them and I invest in them.
Yeah, back in episode 4, all these were myths and stories handed down to Luke as he was growing up. So he doesn't know anything about it.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. Oh, Dan V-Man, good to see you in the chat. Mr. Korriban, I've seen the theories, and there's a lot to get into. We got Kujet, Abeloth, World Between Worlds, the hit list. There is so much speculation about all those things from the extended universe coming back into canon. Why do you say hinting? I think it's EU for Disney era. Essentially, yes. It's suggesting that that's what we're going to get. That's what I mean by hinting. Ahsoka is what Star Wars has been missing. Yeah, and I hate to say that Ahsoka is saving Star Wars, but it feels like that in a way. It's delivering on its promise. I'll put it that way. Where is the next thing we're going to talk about? Tons of theories about Thrawn and the Night Troopers. So first off,
oh yeah, for sure.
I think a lot of people were hit this same way during Thrawn's entrance. That you got the chanting; it's very primal, and the initial thought was, this is what he's been doing in his exile. In these 10 years that he's been gone, he's been turning them into a tribe, essentially. It's not ordered like the Empire. It's whatever they have to do to survive. That was my first thought. And then I started theorizing and seeing other videos about them being not alive anymore. And it got really interesting. How did that scene hit you upon first watch, not knowing who Thrawn really is, and now since you've done a little bit of research?
Oh, definitely a grand entrance. Pun intended.
Yes.
So definitely a grand entrance, though. He knows. I don't know what he's capable of, but he does. He's very confident in himself. And I think that having an army behind you, living or not, and you're not even trying to impress anyone who you're coming in contact with because you already know who they are and why they're there. It's pretty cool. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have any speculation as to who they are or if they're alive or not. I do think the Enoch is alive. That's my one thing, though. Yes.
And that was kind of what people were talking about, why I included that in my video, is that all the other troopers are wrapped with the same cloth that the Night Sisters are wrapped with. There might be a specific term for it. I can't remember at this time. But he's the only one not wrapped with it. Now, he is wearing kind of like an undershirt or a skirt kilt thing or something of the same material, but he's not wrapped with it. So I think that's hinting at him being maybe the only trooper that's still alive, because he's not held together by the Night Sister cloth, hence the Night Sister magic.
Yep.
Gonk. Dustin, the Stay on Target host. Oh, awesome beards and mustaches. Great points. Thank you very much. Thanks for stopping by. Probably the same crew as the Stay on Target guy, which I've been meaning to get back to you. I apologize for not returning your message in Discord, but we'll work something out, definitely. Hasn't been working out. Used to be super buff. Thrawn? Is he talking about Thrawn? Dad bod Thrawn. What's your opinion on Dad bod Thrawn?
I think it's okay.
You wouldn't really know, I guess.
No.
He's depicted in the books as being in very good physical shape, and in Rebels he's rather thin. The actor is rather thin, but for some reason it looks like he's wearing like some padding or something.
Yeah, he's puffed up.
Yeah, we also have to realize he's about 70 years old in this show.
Yeah. I was okay with it. I wasn't setting him up to be something I thought he would be because I didn't know who he was. So
now here's an interesting take. Enoch is a Rakata soldier. So the Rakata had really weird shaped heads.
The cheese head?
Yes, exactly. The Rakata had really weird shaped heads, and I don't think they would fit in a stormtrooper helmet. So, I don't know. I think Thrawn will be imbued with the power of the Night Sisters to become a being that can morph into Maul, Anakin, and Vader to mess with her mentally. We're going to get some weird stuff. I know that. If Baylan Skoll was as freaked out about being on this planet as he appeared in this episode, he knows something's up. We're going to get something major, something really dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were saying that the whale bones orbiting the planet will all be reanimated.
Yeah, I saw that a couple times.
And we'll have a giant Purgil battle, which is really scary. One thing that I think could be really interesting to explore, and probably dangerous, I would assume. So, one thing that could be really interesting if they bring it in, and it would kind of fix a big plot hole in the sequel trilogy. Now, I don't love the sequels. I don't know how you feel about them, because we haven't talked about that in a little while. But most people don't like the sequels. And one of the biggest problems with it, and the biggest jokes from the entire sequel trilogy, is somehow Palpatine returned, if you remember that line. He got thrown down the reactor shaft in Return of the Jedi. He is supposedly dead, but somehow Palpatine returned, and that made a lot of people upset, because it's like, why is he back? I thought we finished this already.
Yep.
And there was never really an explanation aside from it's a cloned body of his, and his spirit went into the cloned body, and there wasn't really an explanation. What if
easy answer
the Night Sister magic is what allows them to put his being back into the cloned body? Because we know that they're doing experiments with cloning, and we also know that cloning a Force-sensitive being is incredibly difficult.
What do they get out of this?
What do the Night Sisters get out of this?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't know. Chat, what do you guys think?
Yeah,
what do the Night Sisters get out of that?
Why are they so cooperative with Thrawn?
Awesome. And I see you in there. Awesome. Welcome.
Nanny
Except
says
for you.
nice. There you go.
Nice. Let's see. Purgil versus the Zilla Beast would be an epic battle. That would be wild. There were royal guards on his ship. Talking about Thrawn, possibly?
Thrawn?
Probably. Please see What If Star Wars, The Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker were awesome. Those are good replacements until Disney comes out with something that makes them make sense. I've heard a lot of people mention that. See, I think the sisters just want to go to Dathomir. Possibly. Hey, you help us move this soul into the clone body, and we'll help you get to your planet.
Do we know who created the map, by the way?
I mean, we were told that the Night Sisters, Night Mothers, or whatever, are descendant from the people that rode the space whales.
Okay,
so
they probably have
it's probably them, and that's Morgan Elsbeth's connection with that, and the little temple thing we saw on that previous planet.
Yep.
So it's probably, she knew where to go because that. Yeah. And then the question of how did Thrawn end up there? was answered because that's the migration route of the Purrgil. At the end of Rebels, Ezra causes the Purrgil to grab onto the Star Destroyer, and they jump to hyperspace with the Star Destroyer.
That's cool.
It is amazing. At least, and anyone that hasn't seen Rebels, just watch the last 2 episodes of Rebels. In the 4th season, just the last 2 episodes, and that'll give you a lot of context for this show. Night Sisters want to leave. They fear what's on the planet. Abeloth, something else. Yeah, you're right. They want to get out of there. And are there more of them, or is it just those 3?
Seems like there's 3. A lot of things they do. Little triangle orbs, and I don't know.
Yeah, and I guess the Purrgil followed the migration routes would be the answer to that.
Oh, I know what I didn't like. When Sabine got taken away by those laser balls and walked her away into prison.
Yeah.
She could just climb out the window. There was like this huge gap in there. Big enough to just crawl.
What was on the other side?
I don't know. I was thinking that. I was like,
was it like a 1,000-foot drop? Yeah.
Could be. But she could get out the window.
They did the voice echo thing. Oh, for the Night Sisters that you're talking about.
Yeah,
that was a cool effect. And again, I haven't seen the Clone Wars episodes with
and every time. I think it's funny. Every time Sabine tries to use the Force, they tease you.
Yes.
And
at least it's not coming easy.
Yeah, it's something like behind her.
Let no one accuse her of being a Mary Sue because it's not like she's picking it up first try. So that's good at least. It would be really strange to have Abeloth, but not Luke. He played a key player in that whole situation. Yes, you are absolutely right. I don't think it's Abeloth and Father Time. Abeloth. I'm sorry, Dan. I'll get back to it in a second. Abeloth was essentially this completely overpowered character that was like 7 times more powerful than Luke.
Wow.
So it was yeah. Yeah, sorry, dude. Let me get to that. Have you seen Tor Valum new redesign? I have not. They essentially took Snoke's giant body from The Force Awakens and put Tor Valum head up on it. I'm thinking that's what Kujet might be in when we see him. Yeah, what is that Kujet? And something to do with Abeloth or people that worshipped Abeloth or something strange like that. Again, I haven't watched a ton of those lore videos or theory videos, so I'm a little bit out of the loop on that. Sabine shouldn't be a Jedi. Agreed. Force sensitive
she is yet, right?
Is a different question, but the title of Jedi, like if Ahsoka just says like now you're a Jedi Knight, then I would I don't know about that. I've literally heard people on here on YouTube calling her a Mary Sue. Yeah, I don't see it. I think they're doing a good thing with her character so far.
Kujet was from the video game?
Probably Fallen Order.
Yeah, Fallen Order. That's what it says.
Yeah, Fallen Order. I didn't play Fallen Order. I don't game. I have a disc golf game that I play on my phone. That's about it. Okay, so let's get into Disney's greatest failure. This is the next thing I wanted to talk about.
Fallen Order. You want me to share my screen? I'm playing Fallen Order right now.
That would be fun. We should let you just hijack my channel for a day and just stream Fallen Order.
That would be funny. It's very repetitive, though, for anybody that's played it. It's like the same thing over and over and over with a different background.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. That's what I've heard from people.
I mean, it's cool. The first time you go through it.
Yeah. But everyone's already gone through it.
I gave up on it. I know, I gave up on it. I didn't go through it.
Yeah. So Disney's greatest failure. What is your whole perspective on Disney and how they've managed or destroyed Star Wars?
Well, whenever you focus on going from telling a story that people are interested in into monetizing it, and that's your priority, it's going to get messed up. And I think that's all that happened. They paid a lot of money for it. They wanted to get that money back plus more. And so when you do that, you got to monetize it. That's fine, selling all the stuff, create a Star Wars land. But when you start telling new stories to monetize those new stories so they can get you money, I don't.
And I've said for a while that the sequels were the result of, hey, we've got the Star Wars name, we got to do something with this, combined with, hey, Marvel is really hot right now. That's the type of storytelling people like. I
think Disney also, in their downfall of this, said, it says Star Wars, they must love it.
Yes.
Whatever we put out, they will love.
And there is some truth to that.
Some of it, yeah.
There's some truth to that, but it's not a recipe for quality content.
No.
We'll put it that way. I kind of hope they do stay in the new galaxy and leave the original trilogy alone. They've picked the EU apart and sprinkled it to try and make their scripts make sense. And I forget who said it in. I forget who said it in Discord. It might have been, what's his name? Star Wars Thesis, I think is what it was. Father Time is 1,500 hours in.
I still haven't finished it.
Yeah. I think it was Star Wars Thesis that said that... Oh gosh, what did he say in Discord? I completely lost my train of thought. And it's gone. It's too far back. I hope they do stay in the new galaxy and leave the original trilogy alone. They picked the... Oh, I remember. Someone calculated or whatever that hyperspace travel to this new galaxy should take like 4 or 5 months one way. I don't know how that was calculated. Was it you that said the hyperspace travel? Are you Blevins? Ryan Blevins? I can't remember. All the Discord and YouTube names are different, so it's hard to keep everyone in order. But they did make it seem like it was 2 hours of travel to get to this place.
Round trip.
Yeah, it was just like round trip. Okay, yeah, it seems like this intergalactic travel took 2 seconds. And
you mean in the Ahsoka episode?
Yeah, it made it seem like their travel time was an hour or so.
Oh, I didn't take it at all. I thought it would be quite a while because she's like, let's just sit back, tell me my stories. I'm ready for the stories, and let's just hang out.
True. I guess that was the only hint, but we never really got any kind of scale of how long it would take, unless it's something I missed. But getting back to Disney's greatest failure. So you were talking about it seemed like they needed to just monetize it, and they put that ahead of the stories that they were trying to tell.
Oh, of course. You spend that much money for something, you want to get it back quick.
So what would you say that from your perspective would be their biggest failure is they didn't focus on the stories?
Yeah, didn't focus on the stories. The monetization followed with how do we monetize this? It doesn't matter. Let's put anything out there, they'll love it. And I think that was the problem. Yeah,
and I think another aspect of that, in my opinion, their greatest failure is completely abandoning the extended universe. Now, I don't know how much you know of the extended universe, but there were all of these books and comics and games and stuff that were part of Star Wars. When Disney took over, they made all of that legends. Essentially saying that's the equivalent of fan fiction. None of that is real. The only thing that's real is the movies, right? Essentially, and Clone Wars, and a couple things like that. But essentially, what we are putting out there as Star Wars is the only Star Wars. And so all these characters, like Luke's wife, Mara Jade, their kids, Han and Leia's 3 kids, Anakin Skywalker was one of those kids. And they all have their stories and their whole history, and there's all this history that happens after Return of the Jedi. And all of that was completely erased. So for a lot of people, before Disney took over, they had the 6 movies and this history. And even before the prequels, I believe, some of those books. And so for a lot of people, their Star Wars, what they considered to be the best part of Star Wars, was completely erased. And it was gone. Yep. And people have been clamoring for years since Disney took over, give us some of those stories back. And so with the whole sequels coming out, people were expecting, oh, we're going to get Luke, he's going to have Mara Jade, his wife, we're going to get their Han and Leia with their kids, and then turns out they're divorced and Luke is a hermit on his island. So that destroyed a lot of people's faith in Disney to tell these stories. So people have been asking for years to get some of those stories back into canon. Disney's given us little bits and pieces of that, but never from canon to actual Star Wars now. Now, that begs the question, should Disney bring those stories back, just beat for beat, back into official Star Wars canon?
Depends who you ask.
Right, and I know you probably don't have as much of an opinion on that because you're not familiar with a lot of those stories.
Yep.
Let's get these comments real quick. Yes, they should have stuck with the Marvel success and used the Legends material to create awesome live-action movies and shows. And that's what made a lot of people upset, is because they're like, well, we're just having to create new stories. We don't have any source material. And it's like, you could have just adapted a book to a movie, and people would have been happy. You already have great stories that are already written. Just pick from that.
And popular.
And popular. They're going to pick apart the EU until it all becomes useless on its own. The stories won't be able to be told on screen with the EU torn to shreds. Yeah, if they take from the EU, they're going to have to change things, which is going to anger a lot of people. And, I mean, everything's going to anger a lot of people.
Everything is, that's true.
Disney's greatest failure within Lucasfilm. They can't evaluate scripts or directors. You get Rian Johnson destroying the mythology at the core by having Luke give up. Yeah, and I think from my perspective, they've gotten a much better grip on that since the sequel trilogy. And as poor as the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi were, they weren't offensive in how they treated original Star Wars, if you know what I mean. They were just weird production decisions, and
I don't know, you can chalk it up to, were those filmed during COVID? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure that plays into it as well.
Couldn't do the same.
It doesn't look as good because we can only have 5 people in the building.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So that's probably an aspect to it as well. But it seems like the people making the story decisions are the people that need to be there now. Because the last couple shows, in terms of honoring what came before, seem a whole lot better than what we got with the sequel trilogy. Mm-hmm. I think that's why they had so many capital class hyperdrives on a ring, almost no mass and tons of power, so possibly got there faster than usual. It's very possible that they got there faster than the Purgil did. So maybe Ahsoka's, quite a ways behind them. But we still don't have a whole lot of clarity.
Yeah, it was a hyperspace traveler. That's what it was for.
Yes. So that's, in my opinion, Disney's greatest failure, is destroying the extended universe and not honoring it in the movies, and still kind of picking bits and pieces. And if they keep picking bits and pieces of what they want to include in new Star Wars canon, there's not really going to be a whole lot left. And I think that's going to anger a lot of people as well. Again, everything's going to anger a lot of people.
Yep.
So, we kind of just touched on that, but what would the value be of recanonizing the old EU? I think it's too late at this point. So, we kind of just touched on that. Retconning the sequels. A lot of people have been wanting Disney to create like an alternate timeline or some explanation that made the sequels not be official Star Wars anymore. Whether that's coming straight out and saying like, oh yeah, those movies that we made that we put so much resources in.
That was a different timeline.
Exactly. That's
here's
not
the real. Here's how Luke really ended up.
Right, and remake those 3 movies, but a different way. Yeah. And that's, I think that is a terrible idea, because there's a lot of people that love those movies. There's also a lot of people like myself that accept those movies for what they are. I don't think it's a good idea just to completely erase them.
Well, you're going to make everybody mad, so there you go.
Right. And another way that they could retcon the sequels would be to add an explanation like an alternate timeline and say, that was one possible future, but I had a video a couple weeks ago about the multiverse in Star Wars and how that's a bad idea, because this isn't Marvel. There's one
they haven't done it yet.
It's got to stick to that. Right.
So far, so good. Night Wizard, welcome.
So what?
And I do have the brick wall. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Woo! It's Mara.
Where's the?
Or what's her name?
Marva.
Marva. Yeah.
Marva Jade.
Surprise. Bantha.
Yeah, Marva Jade.
All right. So I'm going to pose this question to the chat. should Disney retcon the sequels? Yes or no? Is it very simple? Should Disney retcon the sequels? And it doesn't matter how, just should they make it so that the sequels are not official Star Wars canon anymore, through whatever means? An army of Marvas.
There they are, all over.
Yeah. Scotty says retcon it with what? They haven't shown a lot of talent towards new content. In some aspects. I think what Ahsoka is doing, what this show is doing, is hinting at what is possible with a new EU, a new extended universe. More than the original trilogy and prequels and stuff that we've already had before. But the types of stories that we're getting, and the types of details and histories that we're getting in this show, specifically in this last episode, is really impressive. Like the whole... the Night Sisters, back in their history, were the riders of the Purrgil to travel intergalactically. Whatever kind of ancient evil is on this planet, there's a lot of world building that feels like it's straight from the EU, from those books that people loved so much.
There we go. Blazerhawk says no. Don't do it.
Yeah. No retcon. We've got Jedi Hush say retcon, retcon, retcon. Coles says yes. Says nope.
Tom, no. Ryan, no.
Disney should make the sequels Legends
no,
and do
no.
Thrawn trilogy as official sequels, billion-dollar franchise again. And then there's the alternate route that they could take, because the sequels take place in a very, very small amount of time, and ultimately the First Order, well, the Final Order didn't do anything. Palpatine's little army of Star Destroyers at the end.
With horse runners on the space
with the horse runners. Yeah, the space horse. I forgot about those. Oh, man. But they didn't really do anything. And we don't know how long the First Order was kind of in control of the galaxy, but from The Force Awakens to the Rise of Palpawalker, it was a very short time period. And I think if we take it a little bit of a step back, that time period is going to be insignificant in the grand scheme of the whole timeline. So what if we go to this alternate galaxy, this separate galaxy that we're in, with the Purrgil and Thrawn and everything, and we just kind of deal with what's going on there, while the sequel trilogy is taking place. Palpatine returned, and now he's gone. There's a little blip on the radar. And then we continue the stories past that point. The people that like those movies can still enjoy them. They're still official Star Wars. They're there. They're whatever. But they become insignificant as we focus on the storyline past that. So, that I think would be a better solution, because you're still telling those new stories, but you're not angering the people that enjoy those movies. Just avoid the time period. Yeah, just go around it. They just need to do another timeline past the Skywalker era and do their own story, but without Rey. Exactly. We should make a hashtag about retcon the sequels. There are so many hashtags about retconning the sequels. Some people, their entire brand is all about, they're finally doing it! They're finally erasing the sequels! And they put all their hope in that. Yes, retcon, I don't think they ever will, but it did the most damage to Star Wars. It ruined the ending for our heroes, and Palpatine won. And a Palpatine won. If you don't retcon that, nothing else matters. True. Battlefront 2 campaign has the First Order, and it's like 20 years after Return of the Jedi. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to a lot of people, that's the hope that they're putting all their faith in, is that the sequels will one day be retconned, and I think it's just an argument that doesn't need to be focused on at this point. We should just move past it. Creating a new EU was the next thing I wanted to talk about. That's what the show is giving us. It feels like the same flavor of those books, of continuing the timeline with new and greater and different enemies, but it's new and fresh, hence a new EU. And for anyone just joining right now, I apologize for the audio quality tonight, because again, I'm using a webcam as my microphone because my actual microphone gave up. unfortunately. And I do have a video coming out later this week of Paul from Fandomology and myself playing disc golf. So that should be.
You had a short. I saw that.
Yes,
I did. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
You were like, that was good. Boom.
Yeah, but I can throw it over the fence. Yeah. Yeah. We had to make it close. The final score ended up being closer than I would have expected. You guys will see the video soon. I still won. But I have a lot more experience with that. So you'll see that in a little bit. I want to see a new series about Captain Rex or Darth Maul. Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities to tell stories, but again, what I think we're getting in this Ahsoka show is giving us a little bit of a glimpse of what we could be getting in future shows if we focus on stuff that we've never seen before. I am a prequels fan as well. I like the prequels more than the original trilogy. Did your disc go through the uprights? It did on the second shot. We did a second take of that video, and it did go through the uprights on that one. But it's not a new EU, it's a ripoff of the old one. And that's unfortunately kind of how it has to be. They can take hints and bits and pieces from those older stories. I don't think it would be wise to add them beat for beat into the new Star Wars canon. Where was my next point? What do you think we're getting in the next 2 episodes? Why are you flashing? Are you underwater? Strobe lights.
I was playing with my light. I can't get it back to the original. Chat, what do you guys think? What are we going to get the next 2 episodes? Because my guess is really limited. I don't know.
I didn't even know what we were going to get in this episode. We might have an army of zombie troopers.
Well, I think who's the guy that was stranded on the planet with the turtles?
Ezra.
Yeah, we're trying to save him. I think something's up his sleeve. I don't know if he's all that we think he is. So maybe we'll get a little bit more of that.
So you're thinking maybe that's not even Ezra?
Maybe. Because their meeting was kind of odd. That? Their meeting was kind of odd, like prove that we were friends kind of a conversation. I don't know. It just didn't seem... A lot of people were pointing that out as well. It's like, oh, you haven't seen your friend in 10 years and that's how you act? It's a little strange. You're back to the strobes? I'm looping, yeah, I don't... I'm having trouble here.
Alright, let's see what we got. Night Wizard always with the Martez sisters. That's awesome. Starfort and Zepho, Abeloth. Yeah, everyone's banking on Abeloth. So I don't know. Probably Thrawn and all of them will leave, and Ahsoka will find Ezra and Sabine. Also, another development in our timeline theory that we talked about last week of when this all takes place.
Ooh, can we talk about Baylan? We got to talk about Baylan here at some point.
Okay, we'll get that next. So, the timeline that we were saying last time was that this Ahsoka show takes place before the Book of Boba Fett. Now, it's listed on Disney that this takes place after the Book of Boba Fett. I don't know.
If you just joined, welcome, by the way. We have a lot more people just jumped in here, so we don't always play weird light games, but when we do, it's on my end.
It's on your end with Marva, the wall of brick Marva's behind you on Ferrix. Let's see. They did do that in Rebels with the Green Jedi lady. I don't know how to spell her name. Her body was in a coffin. Yeah. Oh, what was her name? It was Barriss Offee's master. Sorry, I don't remember. You know, it's funny. The old Mandalorian Duchess was named Satine, and her name is Sabine. Yes, that is true. Ezra has definitely changed, more mature now, and been through some stuff. And he's got a beard, which is cool, so he's welcome around here. Hopefully we get some meat to the story. It's Ezra just awkward writing on the reunion. And there might be an explanation, as you were pointing out. Sorry, no George tonight. George Lucas is not joining the show tonight, unfortunately.
George, are we riot?
I'm not the last person to join the stream for once. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, we're going to be wrapping it up right now, but let's talk about Baylan as the last thing before we head out. What was your point that you wanted to make about Baylan? What do you like about
I think
him
something's
in
up
this
his
episode?
sleeve. I said something's up Ezra's sleeve, but it's really up Baylan's sleeve because he's got an alternate reason for coming along. He's not just a mercenary. He's got
This
something
break
else
in the
that he
cycle.
needs access to, whatever that means.
Yeah.
He needed access and transportation and knowledge or whatever it is he's after to get one step closer to whatever he's trying to do. And I don't know what it is. So hopefully we'll get some more of that.
Because did he need to go with Morgan Elsbeth to go rescue Thrawn?
Of course not. It's just
So
a pickup job.
So what are his motivations?
Yeah.
He fended off the Jedi who was
Why'd she
trying
even
to
need to bring
catch the
him?
map.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, what are his motivations? To break the cycle is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And which I thought
And
was
it
a
was
really
in the
good
conversation
monologue.
of Jedis being basically knighted without really Jedi powers or abilities, and they're fake. So I don't know what you want to do with that. What do you want to change?
It's interesting what could his plan be to break the cycle? Because he doesn't want galaxy-wide dominance as the Sith Lord of ruler of the galaxy. That's not his motivation.
Nope.
And we know that he's also holding on to a lot of the ideals of the Jedi Order. He hasn't completely abandoned his respect for the Jedi. As we heard that line where he said, I miss the idea of it.
Mm-hmm.
Implying that he agreed with what the fundamental principles of the Jedi Order should have been, but not how it was carried out in practice. So, he's just a fascinating character. Did you notice his belt?
No.
It's a green kyber crystal on his belt.
Cool.
So the theories on that, there's two of them, and I was talking with Paul from Fandomology about this the other day. The first theory is that was his master's kyber crystal, and his master dying was one of his one of his motivations for leaving the Jedi Order. And he keeps that kind of as a keepsake. The other theory that I like better is that was his crystal when he was a Jedi. And rather than, as the Sith normally do, they make the crystal bleed, and they turn it from whatever color it was to red. Rather than doing that, because I don't think he's motivated by pure hatred, I think he saved that to pay homage to where he came from, and then swiped another crystal off of someone else, somewhere along the line. I think that's more likely. But that's the green belt theory. That's pretty much it. Let's catch up on these last few comments, and we will wrap it up for tonight. Not the fanciest show, and hopefully I'll have a working microphone next time. Anthony, YouTube fan, good to see you. For me, Ezra is the light and hope in the story. He can't and won't go dark. I agree, Ahsoka has to take place before Book of Boba Fett. She's too sunny to be the same stoic one we see here. Yes. That makes the most sense with that timeline. Baylan will try to break the cycle, but he'll probably die trying. Baylan and Shin are Revan and Malik. Interesting. Maybe not literally, but in kind of the spirit of what their characters represented. That could be interesting to explore. World Between Worlds to break the cycle, break the generational curse of the galaxy. On Baylan, Riss says it all. Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, R2, and 3PO. On his wrist it says that? I haven't heard that at all.
Oh, now I got to look at that too.
Yeah, I know. More things to do research on before tomorrow. Baylan wants a power that can break the Jedi and the Empire. He says Shin leaves. He stays, Shin leaves, Abeloth, or hopefully a new Filoni Sith character. Or something more dangerous than a single person. Baylan is just General Grievous, but with kyber crystals. Yeah, a fine addition to my collection. But with just crystals. Another reason that it proves it are the Inquisitors. They use it to float fly just like a prop on a plane. Ooh, good point. If any of you guys have heard Susty's lightsaber theory, hit him up in Discord and ask what it is. It's very interesting.
Yes.
What if Hu Yang builds Baylan a new lightsaber with his crystal, with the green one? could be, might come into play. It might not. None of this could be leading anywhere that we think. Because all this is just thinking way too deeply into stuff that doesn't need to be thought that deeply into. But that's going to wrap it up for tonight. Again, sorry for the audio issues. It's not the fanciest show, but I appreciate all of you guys stopping by. Father Time, any closing thoughts as we head into tomorrow's episode?
No, I wasn't expecting what we got the last episode after 5, and so I'm not expecting anything tomorrow, and I'll enjoy what I get. Hopefully it won't leave me on a cliffhanger. I want some questions answered. I just don't know what those are. Yeah. But I would like more story to be told to fill in more gaps that we've got waiting. So
yeah, well, this is the precursor to the finale, so...
Yeah, it could be a two-parter and leave me really on a cliff.
Really, really hanging for a whole other week.
I hope it doesn't. That's kind of what I'm hoping for.
Well, that's going to do it. You guys are... I appreciate you guys. The conversations we've had in the comments this last week have been
more
awesome.
Enoch, yeah. Please explain Enoch. No.
Enoch needs explanation. I think we're going to get more explanation about the army.
The whole army, yeah.
And maybe even what this great evil is. This dark, whatever Baylan's worried about. Or, again, that might be his motivation for going to this place because he knows there's something that he can use to break the cycle. Either way, very interesting. I appreciate all of you guys for stopping by tonight. If you've been here from the very beginning of the show, I really appreciate your time. May the stash be with you, and I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy.